Okay, good afternoon. Welcome everybody to our presentation today, a better way to segment and visualize your customers. My name is Ed Girders, and I am happy to be joined by my colleague, Kevin Lawson. Kevin has over 15 years as a distributor, working with both Fortune 500 and family-owned operations, experience with territory sales and expansion, organizational and corporate strategies, and in this day and age, technology, so IT and integration. He also works as a consultant and a lecturer, and we're happy to have his experience on this presentation today. And the presentation is really, we have a short 30 minutes, so I'm going to start off with just a couple slides about changes in our business today, why we segment customers, tailored strategies for those customers, and then we're going to turn it over to Kevin for that solution presentation. And then I'll take it back at the end to talk about some of the key takeaways from our conversations this afternoon. But let's dive right in and talk about change in our businesses today. And really it's coming from a few different areas, generations, technology, and customers. And really from the generational standpoint, it comes from the baby boomers retiring and that new brand of leaders taking over. And that new, whether it's a younger family member or a new team member, it is that maybe they've grown up with technology, and so pretty much grown up with a cell phone in their hand. And if you think about all the things that you can do nowadays and how technology has changed, how do they bring that to the business? Let's take an example of ordering from Amazon. So I can order from Amazon with my cell phone. I can track that order and know when it gets delivered. So if that's what I'm growing up with as running my business, how does that lead in to when I become a leader at my business? And then we talk about the customers, the lifeblood of our operations. How are they changing? How are their buying habit changes? Obviously we know they are changing, the buying habits, so how we sell to them needs to change as well. And with some of that disruption, it does impact a couple things, and so pricing. So with the ability to go online and order or just search other websites, it definitely puts an impact on price. And obviously in that competition, your margins get impacted. Decision makers in that generation change, maybe before it was the owner makes all the decisions. Well, I think nowadays it's more a consensus. I was talking with a tire company the other day to the owner, and he brought in the VP, who then brought in the ops manager and the finance person, as well as the purchasing person, all to make a decision on something. And so that's another impact to say that buying cycle. Buying patterns have changed, the ability to pick up orders, call in, online, so different options. I talked about the Amazon experience, the Amazon purchase. How does that impact my expectations as a customer when I purchase from you as a business? And that's why we're here to talk about today. So we're talking about these factors, these changes, and how our business is equipped to meet these changes and stay competitive and boost profitability. So we're going to look at a solution called Customer Stratification. And really, it's been developed based on these three legs of approach, and certainly it's the research from the foundation is the research from the NAW and Texas A&M, and they've really put together an alliance to develop those best practices for wholesale and distribution. And then via technology, how do we display that information and how do we visualize that information? So we do take that research, that visualization, that technology, and then we bring in Ernest and Associates, the developers of this software solution, and their experience, their 30-plus years experience of working with customers just like you in defining those reports and getting that information to run your businesses on. So first we're going to talk about segmenting, grouping your customers, and I had mentioned the research done by the NAW, so grouping customers is probably not a new concept. Everybody knows not all customers are the same, but what they recommend are these 4 segments or groups. And not only that, they say this is what we're going to base those customers on to put them into these boxes, these groups. So if you look at it, profitability, relationships, cost to serve, and volume. So these 4 factors we're going to gauge to put them into the right segment. So top right, you can see core customers. I think everybody can get what they are. They're the ones that drive your business, right? So 80% of my business is from 20% of my customers, give or take. That's the old adage, but you can see why. They're highly profitable. You've got a great long-term relationship with them. They're high volume, they're easy, or they have a low cost to serve. But let's look at some of the other boxes and try to figure out why they're there. So opportunistic over there on the left quadrant. They could be seen as your competition's core customers. So maybe they're ordering from you when their supplier's out, and or back to that transparency, they just want to see what pricing is from you versus their current vendor supplier. So they're highly profitable, not much relationship, low cost to serve, low volume. Really, maybe their current supplier's out of stock, so they just need that item. So service drain, bottom right, again, have some similarities to your core customers, high volume, high relationship, but maybe they beat you up a little bit on pricing, cost to serve. Maybe they'd like you to maintain their inventory or have some type of extra engagement with you that maybe you don't offer to other people. And then the bottom, lower left, marginal customers. Low profitability, no relationship, high cost to serve, low volume. Then maybe on at a quick glance, you're saying, well, how do we deal with them? But when you do group your customers based on these 4, say, criteria, you're going to find that the majority of your customers could fall into that marginal category, or at least a great deal of them. And so they are profitable. So there is some profit there. And then the question, now that we've grouped the customers, what type of attention, what type of strategies are we putting in place to better manage those customers? Because at the end of the day, the goal, right, is to get everybody green, right? Move everybody into that top right core customer segment. But with that, you need to have a plan. You need to have a strategy in place. And the great thing as part of that solution, the customer stratification, these strategies are in place. And again, they're shared across the board, developed maybe by the sales manager or stakeholder, shared with the salespeople, but as well purchasing, finance, everybody needs to be aware. So it gives you great vision for everybody to focus on what we're doing with these customers. And you can see off to the right there, broken down the different, say, quadrants or segments of the customers, the core, the top one. So before I call on this customer, I need to know what's my strategy? What am I trying to do? Well, they're my core, so I want to stretch them, easy enough. You know, they're profitable, high, good margins, so let me sell them more product. Let's expand the line. But maybe there's others in there, you know, protect. They're your core customers. You want to keep them that way. So maybe you want to do some things to allow you to protect your customers, your core customers from the competition, which does lead us to the opportunistic customer. Again, they're highly profitable. They just don't have much of a relationship with you. So how do we develop that relationship? How do we get to know them better so we can improve that profitability in that relationship? A service drain, the number one thing with them is that profitability or those gross margins. So why don't we examine what they're ordering and maybe try to get some new line items, the A and the Bs, from them to raise that gross margin percent. And marginal, you know, here it says eliminate, but obviously, again, they're going to be a majority of your customers, and there is some profitability in there. So maybe you do want to examine and develop and look at alternatives. Another interesting note, I was at a user group meeting with Ernest and Associates, and they talked about you know, maybe getting the marginal customers to do more online ordering, more self-service, and things like that, just as an idea, just as a strategy to help them improve that profitability. So I've talked really quickly through a couple points, but you know, we go back to the needs of that modern business and the changing times. So we're talking about technology, the ability for the sales team to have mobile access, because we want them out talking to customers, so having that information with them at all times, and information, so it's actionable information. It's not more reports, because I'm sure everybody gets enough reports via a spreadsheet, right? So you want actionable information in a very visual way, and that's your data. So you're taking that data that's coming out of your ERP system, and you're able to make better decisions, because it's that single source of truth. It's not assumptions. It's what the data is giving you. This is who my customers are. These are their buying habits. This is my strategy. Let's improve our margins. And by doing that, once you see, and Kevin's going to show us in the demo, once we get a clearer picture of our customers, who they are, what they're buying, as they compare to other customers, we start to understand that you know, all customers aren't the same, and that there are, but we need to treat them differently, because they have different buying, say, habits and patterns. And the last part, in profitability, you know, it's not about sales. We're all a team. So if I have a strategy that talks about increasing or decreasing certain items from our inventory, you know, obviously that affects different people. So we're all in this together, from the stakeholders down to the salespeople, to help get that business profitability where it wants to be. And just a few slides left to say, and this is what I'm talking about, that each, say, position, so I'm in sales. I can, from one of the reports in the solution, I can quickly see this is my customer. And you can see it's very visual. Here's the last number of orders, how many lines they ordered, the average order. So that knowledge is power. Just say I'm a new guy. You know, how great would it be to have this information in front of me to get better insight into that customer. And that allows me to better manage my time, maybe improve a relationship with them or somebody else, and look for new opportunities, and that's what they would like me to do. as far as the management. So here are your customers. A quick, easy visual way to see how they set up helps me. You can click on those buttons, it'll tell you, or those dots, and it'll tell you who that customer is. There's filters to get that information. Helps you develop that territory assignment, helps you develop those strategies to maybe sell more on margins, and which items that you'd like your sales team to focus on, and also give you that information to share with your stakeholders. Here's what we have in place to improve our business, and so obviously that's always a great thing for the owners and the stakeholders of the business to know what is our plan. Help me visualize the things that we've been talking about. So the last part is purchasing, right? So we're all in this together. So if I've been told to focus on these strategies, focus on stretching my core customers to include these other lines, I certainly need to make sure that purchasing knows what those items are, as well as decreasing some lines from the marginal customers. Maybe I'm just carrying them and they don't order them enough. So obviously this is there's a great report in here for the purchasing teams to know about those inventory items. Well, that's all for me. I am now going to turn it over to Kevin Lawson and make him the presenter for him to give us a solution overview of this customer stratification solution. Welcome, Kevin.
Great, thanks, Ed. I appreciate that. And for everyone, I want to reiterate a couple of things just to build on what Ed has already laid out there. First, since I was a distributor for about 15 years, I've been in most of the shoes that you all are experiencing. I've opened a new territory. I've maintained an existing territory, so I've had that account development as well as that account maintenance role. I've been in sales management, operational management, strategy, purchasing, supply chain. So I've been there. So what really excites me about this tool and this solution is that the data is already there. And what I mean by that is all the transactions you're processing now are what drives the outputs here. So what I've done here is I'm showing you that same screen that Ed showed you on the entire business's plotting of all the customers. Like each one of these little circles represents a different customer. And you can see by me hovering over it, you can see that I've got these different plotted point-to-point measures of a customer's lifetime value and net profitability. And so just for a word picture here along with this visualization, if you can imagine a big plus sign right down this 25 and right across this 25, that's the line of demarcation that creates the quadrant view that gives us these core customers. And you'll remember what Ed said about those. These are the 80-20 rule. 80% of your sales and profitability come from these customers. Your opportunistic, these are your competitors' best customers. They only come to you really to, maybe you've got an exclusive line or deal or something, or maybe their primary suppliers out, so you're able to exercise a higher margin because you've got something in stock. These service train down here, these yellow point-to-point markers, again, these are the ones who maybe you've known for a long time. You may see them very regularly or deal with them very regularly, but in that dealing with them very regularly over a long period of time, you've probably offered them almost every service you have, up to and including pricing changes and upgrades. So what we tend to experience and see with the distributors we work with is that these customers are long-term customers but have a really depressed margin just because of the longevity of the relationship. There's not been an intentional effort typically to help drive new profitability in there. Typically, it's more around what services can we offer them to try and get them to buy more, but that comes on the altar of depressed price. The marginal ones, these are, again, the ones that may have some invoice profitability, but maybe when you look at the whole customer, maybe they are costing you money to do business with, which is it's a distribution paradigm. Do you want the sale or do you want the profit? Or, if you get the sale, can you get more profit? It's that, chicken and egg kind of thought. So with these, we focus on strategies that Ed alluded to earlier. We focus on the strategies to change the profitability picture. So that's what we're going to do a little bit of. And what you'll see here is this screen is Power BI. This is the Microsoft delivery tool we use. So I've said that we take all that ERP transactional data, the stuff that's already in your system, and we put it through the NAW model, the NAW and Texas A&M, your research model. We automate that tool and deliver it with this best practice, best-in-class Power BI model. And what that allows you to do is have that mobile view on your data. All of these plots are based on the transactional data. So if I look at just this Newark branch here, you'll see that these are all my customers compared to one another. And like Ed said, they're not compared to an industry standard. So I'm able to say, well, these are my core customers based on my transaction history in my locations as a distributor. So I'm not comparing it to some arbitrary industry-wide selection. So that's the point of interest that I would want to take away as a distributor, knowing that I'm comparing these results to my other customers. So these are real results about real transactions, and it's a real way of visualizing what we can do next. So this is your quadrant view, and this is something we update quarterly for you through our automation tools. Now, why that's useful is going to really dovetail in a minute to the transactional strategies that we're imposing for the quarter to try and move these three quadrants up to more core behaviors. And the way we do that is by actually drilling down. So imagine, again, you're that one salesperson, or you're that one sales manager looking down across a salesperson name or one branch. In this case, I'm going to look at one specific customer. I'm going to put myself in the role of being a sales account rep or account manager, however you tend to call them in your business. And I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to go call on this customer in the top left-hand corner, Advanced Biological Concepts. I see that they're a core customer for the San Francisco location, but I wonder how many locations they buy out of. Maybe they buy out of more than one. And again, looking over here at my filters for that kind of information, they just happen to buy the San Francisco location. So they're not buying from multiple locations. That's a good indicator for me. But I can see, even though they're a core customer, now, sports may resonate with many of you, being on a sports team or playing sports or coaching. You know that even at the professional level, we can look at the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, the MLS, we can look at all those professional organizations and know that those professionals, those are elite athletes, but they always go to practice. They always have to work on their game. There's always an opportunity for improvement there. That's no different than you as a professional manager of a business. You've got a core customer, and you know there's areas that can be improved upon. We do that, we visualize that by assigning letter grades, comparative letter grades. So in this case, core customer, their buying power, I see that their sales volume rank, they're a B. That means that there's some customers in this location that buy more, so they would get an A rank. There's some that buy less, that would get a C and D rank. Now here's the interesting thing, part of what makes them core, they buy a whole lot of my different product lines. They also buy a whole lot of items in those product lines. So if I'm selling product class A, B, and C, that's good. If my customer is buying all those product lines, that'd be 100%. And inside that, they'd be buying more items. Again, that's A ranking, but again, back to that opportunity to improve, you've got a revenue trend rank and a gross margin trend rank, and their average order size is decreasing. I'm just looking at the D ranks. They're still core, but these are areas where I can improve. Maybe there's a consolidation effort that we can go through to help bring them along. Now, I want to extend this past sales, because this is not just sales. Ed talked about this. This is not just sales. It's management, leadership, divisional management, functional management. Maybe you're wearing a lot of these roles. So if I'm sitting in your seat, I'm going to say, well, how does this apply to, let's just say, inventory? How do I purchase or stock or set up a showroom differently based on my customers' historical buying patterns? So I'm going to remove that filter, move over here to my inventory, and say, well, I know this may be a busy screen for some of you, so quick anatomy is this is all the same data presented three different ways. These are my item ranks. A and B items represent about $8.2 million of the $22 million that I sell. C, D, and E items are $9 million, and this is easy. These are what we call the sell and source items, or the non-stocking or temporary items. It's the one that we have to go find that we don't stock. So this is not part of our stocking program. So when I start to look at this, I say, well, I'm going to use these same labels. Remember that marginal customer? These are the ones that cost me money to do business with typically. I'm curious to know, and again, since all this data is relational, what items do I sell? 100% of the sales go to marginal items. This is a very actionable kind of tool that I can use as a salesperson to sell more of these type items at a higher margin, or as a supply chain officer to say, you know what, if the sales team's not selling these to any of our core customers, maybe I don't need to invest in there. And for those of you who are controllers who are listening, your ears probably just perked up a little bit and said, wait a minute, he's talking about inventory investment based on the return. We're talking ROI here. So when you talk about in a distributorship, how do you take your vault, your inventory investment dollars, and allocate them more effectively? Well, here's one way. Marginal. If I'm selling 100% of the item, even though it's $14,000 worth or $67 worth, I know that 100% of those items are being sold to a marginal customer, someone who may be costing me money to do business with. I can drill in further and ask questions around who am I selling it to? I can say, how am I selling it to? You know, quantities or frequency, those kind of things. But at the base level, we can start to make those action-based analytics go to work for us. This is how we get from, you know, the 30,000-foot view of where are we going, what are we doing, down to the tactical view of what are we doing before lunch. So a lot of these things transcend a lot of the different roles. Now, I'm going to quickly jump over here and shift gears on you all and say, well, now we're going to shift from the 30,000-foot view and strategic view of our business down to what's happening yesterday and today and how am I moving strategies along. And this is where we do that with the daily review. The first suite of reports I was showing you was a quarterly update on a rolling 12 months. This is a daily review. This is where we measure effectiveness and we start talking about, you know, in the product lines. This is one of the screenshots Ed showed you. How many average lines per order do I have? These are all the individual metrics that are helping support and measure those strategies that are in place. Now, I'm going to jump again on you because we just want to kind of brush the top of the surface here and talk about strategies. What are we going to do with the information we've learned? This is where management, sales, ownership, you know, functional managers really come in and play and say, well, if I'm a manager and I'm dealing with a core customer or a set of core customers, what are some of those quick reminders of how I can grow, defend, stretch, or protect their business? If I'm going in and dealing with those customer accounts, maybe I want to design a marketing program for these marginal accounts to get their buying habits changed or trended from in-store or everyday to online and weekly orders to lower the cost of those transactions. Maybe that's the way I strategically position a plan, a marketing plan, to move marginal customers to more core behaviors. Same thing for opportunistic. If I'm a manager and I want to come alongside marketing and supply chain and ask how we're going to invest, market, and allocate dollars to these type of customers, how do I get them to give me a try? Now, that's from a management point of view. What if I'm a salesperson, I'm out on the road going to these different customers, that same opportunistic customer, maybe I'm going to target special pricing to give me a try. Maybe they only buy the C and D and E items from me. And I want to do that gap analysis and through that quarterly review, the strategic review, and I realize that they're only buying C, D, and E items. How do I get them to try my A and B items? I take a similar customer that's a core customer, look at the product mix they're buying, and maybe find some jewels in there to go price to them specifically and get them to give me a try on those A high volume items. So again, it's all about bringing that relationship closer to more core behaviors and profitability. So hopefully that gives you a taste and an overview of what customer stratification is at a very high level. And you can see there's a whole lot more to this tool down here. I mean, there's a whole lot more gap analysis we can do, whether it's across branches, lines, vendors, product categories, individual items, and volumes. Lots that we can really dig into, but the goal here is, again, to start at a strategic level and be presented with data that you can take action on today. It's not this hunt and peck and run more reports. It's about, here's a problem, let's go fix it. So, Ed, I'm going to throw it back to you because this is the very highest of high levels of what this tool is designed to do for the distributor and their modern changing customers and expectations.
Well, perfect. Thanks. So you can see why I was happy to have Kevin on this call today to share some of that information and experience and knowledge. So thank you, Kevin. So the takeaways is really to segment your customers, but have that strategy for higher profitability and use some factors to develop that segmentation. Better data, better decisions means better gross margins. It's pretty much that simple. We opened the conversation today talking about change. So we're going to close it with embracing change and with our customer stratification solution. And really, that's it. We were spotted for 30 minutes. I think we just hit our mark. So I just wanted to say thank you. We did get some questions coming in, so we will follow up with you with that information. I will also reach out to you and share this slide pack with you. But if Kevin had brought up any questions, please, you can respond and let me know, and we'll go from there. But on behalf of Kevin Lawson, myself, Ed Girders, and Ernest & Associate, we really appreciate your time today, and have a great day. Thank you.